to the mobile device, please welcome Deb Hall.
Hi, everyone. So I'm here to try and be a little bit controversial today on the subject of mobile marketing. Mobile marketing, or smarter mobile marketing, whenever you'd hear someone get up to talk about it, you'd hear location, location, location. So what I'm here to tell, or to try to convince you of, is the fact that mobile marketing is about much more than location. Give me a second here. So what neuroscientists have said is that the emotional thought travels through your brain 3,000 times faster than a rational thought. So when I stumbled upon this stat, I thought, that's probably why throwing coupons and offers at people just because they're at a street corner isn't always going to convince them to buy the thing that we want them to buy. So I think mobile marketing, or smarter mobile marketing, is all about a mobile handshake. So doing a very elegant handshake with the consumer about your product and using the purchase funnel in a little bit of a different way. Any users of Pinterest in the room? Woo! All right. I'm Superstar Deb on Pinterest. Check out my boards. I think Pinterest is a really great example of how a tablet can evoke emotion. You see an image, you see a place that someone's traveled to, you see a beautiful, I have this pool fascination because I used to be a competitive swimmer. So whenever I see these like infinity pools and pools, I have to repin them and look at them and talk about them. But that's an emotional experience that's happening on a mobile device. So a lot of studies initially said that you can't do emotional brand marketing in mobile because mobile is just a little phone and it's just a little tablet. And then over the last couple years, what we've been realizing is it's a great place to do brand and emotional marketing because there's just so much amazing content, discovery. You've got people in their leisure time at the bookends of the day. So I think emotion drives our purchase decisions. And a site like Songza is also a great example of that. Any Songza users in the house? So when you open Songza, the first thing you see isn't favorite playlists or songs that you should like. It's what mood are you in? How are you feeling? And then it gets into the songs from there. So we started a partnership with a company called Share This, which has actually been a really interesting exercise. Share This has built a business on the share bar that they've inserted in over 3 million websites. And one of the most interesting things that we've uncovered with them is the sharing that we do used to be just an email share. You know, I would meet someone, I'd email the article that of interest, and I'd send it to you. And what Share This is kind of riding the wave of is this social mobile content sharing, where we're posting stuff up to social networks. We're going crazy on sharing. Just like this conference is a perfect example of how much content is available on Twitter to people who aren't even here, to how much sharing is going on in the room. So brands are becoming publishers. In this environment, if you want to participate and be a part of the conversation, you have to share this. And in the mobile sphere, to make that a smarter mobile marketing campaign, if 70% of your updates and all of the activity that's happening on social is actually mobile marketing, it behooves you to have an amazing mobile component to your social campaign. So anyone who's running an amazing social media campaign, there's an amazing number of those campaigns that just aren't optimized for mobile. And what I found interesting and what was proven, I guess, in the speakers before me was that the long tail exists for these campaigns. So if you've done a great job of mobile optimizing, you'll see that payback through all of the long tail of that amazing social campaign.
Jack, stop.
Yeah.
I'm getting some Twitter complaints that it's hard to hear, so I'm just going to move these a little closer to you. Is that okay? Thank you, Twitter people.
Thank you, social content right there. And through Share This, we've been realizing how powerful social targeting can be in the mobile context. So if we know that it's a tablet user that's surfing particular content in bookends of the day about shoes, we can target those people in a different way than we would talk to them first thing in the morning. In building and developing a property called ShopCatch, we actually learned the lesson about location-based marketing, the fact that we couldn't just put out deals all day long, just because someone's sitting here in the room, we had to do this emotional dance with them. We couldn't just put offers in front of you all the time and hope that you would buy. So what we've been realizing, and that's why I do think mobile marketing is so much more than location, is that we have this amazing opportunity to shrink the distance between content and commerce. And we proved this out through a campaign we ran last year with Infinity, where we were hoping to see 30 seconds of engagement with an ad unit. And because we used the actual tablet device to tour the car and to move yourself through a car tour, we got over 9 minutes of engagement with the average user with the ad. So then we realized, wow, if we have that type of opportunity, how can we use that in a B2B instance? And we worked with a local company, The Little Room, and we have been using their product to do B2B instances. So the idea of having a fashion show and then using tablets to browse through content, using the tablet as a content and a commerce vehicle. Apparently 59% of tablet users, when they see tablet content or an ad, they want to know how to purchase. So if your brand content is on the tablet and it's not optimized, or you have an ad out there that doesn't look great and is an amazing experience on the tablet, you're missing potential purchasers in those leisure moments of the day. I used to evangelize mobile web all day long. That was the thing. That was the whole premise of the company I started, Web to Mobile. And now I've been thinking more and more about the stats around screens. And I think Veronica raised this, but this is just another to hammer it home, that 90% of our time during the day is spent on screens versus 10% of it in all the other media. So how can we elegantly create a mobile marketing handshake that will do the dance with the 90% of time and all of our screen time in 4 hours of leisure time that we spend on the 90% of those screens? Say two.
Round of applause for Deb, please.
That was great. I don't know if you've seen my phone.
Hello.
It's massive. Would you like to touch it?
No. I'm an Apple girl.
Whoa, step away. So this is an Android Note 2, and I've been carrying around, trying it out, and I'm going to blog about it soon. It's great. I love it. But I wanted to ask you, as I've noticed that I've gotten rid of all my tablets, right? I've really just gone to this. And actually, I did a test with my team when I was driving up to Whistler when we were working, and we work 24/7 all the time. And I noticed that I could do all of my work, including Skype, on this tablet. So what are you seeing in terms of changes as people morph away from having a PC, a laptop, and a phone, just to having something maybe one?
They call it a phablet.
Yeah, the phablets. Yeah. Phone tablet.
Yes.
What are you seeing there?
We're seeing two things. So two things are happening. More and more devices. So not everyone's savvy enough to shrink all their stuff into one device. So we still are seeing people add, I think, roles slide with all of those devices. People are still adding device time and adding devices to the mix. But what for advertisers and for content producers, the challenge that creates is creating not only sizable content, so like great engineering that makes the content great, but relevant bytes of content for each of those different devices.
We have been talking about relevant bytes and byte size and for mobile for years. And we still, have we hit the tipping point yet? Because it still seems to me that people aren't spending a lot of money on mobile yet. It's coming, but it's not quite there. The apps are okay, but all of us, I think, out there would know that we probably use 5 apps most of the time. The rest of them just take up our phone. HTML5 was a total mess. It couldn't figure out what was happening there. Now we've gone to responsive web. When you say across the platforms, what exactly do you mean in terms of monetization?
So there's a lot of things in that, but I think the two nuggets I would say is I think we're just getting creative about all the things we can do. I think first of all, we as technology people, we always just want to solve the problem instead of looking at it in a lot bigger context and saying, what's the opportunity and what can we do? So instead of bite-sized chunks, maybe the better word is creative ways. So that in that Infinity campaign, instead of just sitting around and going, oh, there's a way we could get people to surf around it, we wanted to actually, do the Queen's University Media Lab thing and put yourself inside of it. So I think as creative as we can be, the more we'll break through and show what's possible.
I want to go to the audience. Any questions from the audience quickly? Okay.
You can talk with Deb afterwards. I do want to obviously ask you 2 questions. One, what's your favorite app and why? And what's your favorite responsive website that you go to that you're like, wow, this is really well done for mobile devices? Don't say Crossmedia TO because we're all responsive and it's amazing, but you can leave that one out.
I have love for Crossmedia TO and the responsive, but I am addicted to Songza. So I even did a little cute Songza mock-up for this.
Yeah, I saw that.
I know.
Yeah.
I was really
so you're addicted to Songza? And then what about a website that you go to that's responsive and it doesn't matter what tablet you go to, it works?
Well, I've been looking more in the ad experience zone, and what really delights and pleases me is when I see when a video or content works across multiple pieces, and it's surprising how that still happens where it breaks. So,
can you give me a website that you like?
I love Refinery 29. I think they do. This is a women's site, so
I can go.
You can go.
I'm comfortably.
But yeah. I think they do 2 things. They do the technology well, and they also do the content, like the bite-sized things that I'm talking about.
Can we pop Refinery 29 up here quickly while we? So a round of applause for Deb. Thanks very much. Really appreciate it. Okay, moving along. Up next. How many of you have not heard of Uber? You know what Uber is? Anyone not heard of it? See what I did there? Yeah, great. I'm like, no one's going to put their hand up when you ask a question that way, Gavin. You're going to say, how many people have heard of Uber? How many people have heard of Uber? How many people have actually used Uber? Right, okay. So Uber is a taxi service. Right? Let's just put it that way, as black cabs. I am going to let our next speaker, Andrew McDonald, tell you about it. The reason why he's here is that because Uber has become extremely disruptive. In New York City, where I spend a lot of time, and even here in Toronto, the cab companies spend a lot of time trying to keep it out. And they've actually changing legislation now, I understand, to allow it. So he's going to talk about that. Andrew's the head of Uber Canada, which is disrupting the taxi businesses in every city they're in, and it's facing just a few hurdles, so please, a round of applause for Andrew from Uber. Come on up.
How do I go to the next slide here? Oh, perfect. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I think so the first slide I had explained how Uber works and what we are. I'll skip over that based on the introduction. I will start by saying we are not a taxi service. We're an app. We're a technology company. We actually don't own any cars. We don't employ any drivers. We work with an independent partner network. Most taxi drivers across every city in the world are independent operators, so small businessmen running their own startups, essentially responsible for paying their bills at the end of the day. Again, let's skip past this. Oh. Okay, thank you. But first, to understand, when people say that Uber is disrupting a market, it probably helps to understand what that market looks like. A little bit about the company. We were founded in 2009 by Travis Kalanick and Garrett Camp. Garrett's a Canadian who also founded StumbleUpon. We raised over $40 million in funding from a variety of investors, including Bezos, Goldman, and led by Menlo. Toronto is Uber's second international market. They've made the Canadian business a priority, so I'm proud to be a part of growing that. And we're approaching hundreds of thousands of driver hours logged every week. Half our users, to talk to loyalty, half our users have taken a ride with us in the last 30 days. So I'd be interested to see if that number held true here. And the average customer spends about $100 a month. So we're somewhat of a luxury, but also a utility for a lot of people using us daily. Just to speak specifically to the Toronto taxi industry, which we're disrupting. I don't necessarily love that word, but 50,000 taxi trips in Toronto every day, which is a big number, but when you consider that there's about 10,000 taxi drivers driving 5,000 cabs, it doesn't take a PhD in math to realize that the average guy may be doing 8, 9, 10 trips a day, and when you're talking about an average fare of about $15 to $20 in Toronto, taxi drivers are taking home $150, $200, out of which they have to pay all their operating expenses associated with their business. So, needless to say, being a taxi driver in Toronto is a tough gig. And, if I had an hour, I'd tell you all about how we're changing the lives of drivers, but today I want to focus on the consumer and how we're engaging consumers in a way that the taxi industry never has. We say at Uber that, we give customers high fives and we give drivers hugs. So today I'll focus on the high fives. So, the term disruption is an interesting one. It typically implies that you've got an industry that's a bit outdated. That photo right there, when you look at applying for a taxi brokerage license in Toronto, you're required as a broker to submit an image of your vehicle. And when we asked for an example of that, this is what the latest submission was. So that's the industry starting point. But when you disrupt an industry, you get a lot of headlines. Media likes to focus on controversy, people who are mad at you for changing their business, for doing things differently. And so why are we changing the business? Why are we trying to connect with consumers in a different way? Well, when you think about the taxi industry, and this is true in Toronto, but it's true in most major markets in the world, you've got an industry that suffers a lot of ills. To me and to us, what we see is the reason for this is it all roots from protective economic regulation. What I mean by that is you see rules in place, put in place by the government, that you don't see in other industries. Price floors, price caps, license caps. And what that does is it creates a lot of artificial barriers to entry. It stifles innovation, it stifles competition. And it means that existing industry players with a vested interest in seeing the status quo, everything stay the same, they're protected and the consumer suffers. And so what companies like Uber does, and all the Uber copycats out there, we've turned the focus back to consumers. We don't need protection, we don't want it, because we think we're the best at what we do, and we're going to win that way. And really, all that is applying sort of basic business principles to an industry that's never thought about it that way. So actually marketing to the consumer. When we've run fun campaigns in Toronto, and I'll speak to a couple of them, competitors, other taxi brokers, they reach out and they say, oh, look at all these gimmicks Uber does. They view marketing as gimmicks. They view customer acquisition as PR stunts, which I think speaks to the ills of the industry. So, how do you get consumers to engage with essentially what amounts to a taxi brand? And you do stuff that's a little crazy, you do stuff that gets attention, but you do stuff that speaks to your ability. So we ran, when we launched the taxi product in Toronto, a week of free taxis. Everyone in the city could have as many free taxi rides as they want on Uber. And that, grabbed attention, but it also featured what we're good at. What we're good at is on-demand logistics. The tough side is not the technology, it's the logistics. It's an operational challenge to try to connect people through an app with a car in under 3 minutes. And so we demonstrate this, and as part of a marketing play, we demonstrate this by doing fun stuff. We've delivered tequila on demand, mariachi bands, we delivered bouquets of roses on Valentine's Day. We do fun stuff because it engages consumers, but it also features like, hey, we can deliver roses. We've never done it before, but we're able to do that. And we take an honest tone with our consumers. It's a new business. When we screw up, we admit it. And when we launch a new product, we speak to, there could be some bumps along the way. And what that leads to, and I'll leave it here, is sort of an intense customer passion for your brand. And in a market where we face constant pressure from existing players and regulators who are often friends with those players, that's important. So, we've seen a steady drumbeat of progress across Uber markets. Washington, California, Boston, New York have all recently put in laws which essentially make sure that Uber's legal and consumers have access to it. So that's what engaging in an industry does, where people normally haven't been engaged. So I'll leave it there.
Thanks very much. Round of applause for Andrew. Thank you for the free ones in Toronto, because my staff sitting there used it like every single day, everywhere they were Ubering. If you haven't used it, it's what's really, you know what I really like about it is that I can attach my credit card to it. I don't have to tip. I don't have to spend any time because it's already all built into the price. It's not that I'm not a tipper, I like to tip, but I like that I can get into the car, put in my destination, and then get out of the car and not have to worry about actually money exchanging hands. How are you finding the behaviors are changing for the taxi industry from the technology standpoint? Because when we get in and we see the drivers all have iPhones and they're like, are you an Uber car? What's the feedback you've had from the actual taxi drivers about, do they like it, do they not like it? Have you lost some of the taxi drivers who are like, it doesn't work for me?
Yeah, I mean, drivers absolutely love it.
Why do they love it so much?
Well, I mean, these guys are making less than minimum wage. It's extra earnings for them. We're growing. People take more taxis because of Uber and because of our competitors. And these guys just want to earn as much as they can. They're also used to paying a fixed dispatch. So traditionally, the way the brokerage system has worked is a driver pays $600 a month to a broker, and they're not guaranteed anything from that. That just gets them calls over the radio, which we've all seen. Sometimes they get one call a day, sometimes they get one a week, but they've paid a fixed fee. With us and other competitors, they're just paying when they get business. So it makes a lot more sense economically for them as well.
And let's just follow up. Are there any questions while I ask the next question? Okay, great. If there is, just let me know. Let's talk about local Toronto for my sort of last question. Is that where are you finding the pockets are? Because when we talk to the drivers, when we're here in Toronto, and in New York it's a little bit different, but the pockets are, Forest Hill and Ossington, right? And that's where they basically pick up. But the rest of the time, the rest of the city doesn't seem to be a part of it. So are you appealing to a certain demographic that you're disrupting, us sort of geeks who know about it, or more other people adopting it?
I mean, I think it starts with the geeks because they're comfortable using the app. And then people use it socially. So the progression we see is, with the black car service, people use it on date night or they use it when they're going out Saturday night. And that's kind of how we grow in a market initially. But then, as we mature, people start going, well, actually, I got to go to this meeting, so I'd rather take an Uber than a taxi or a subway, and then they'll do that. So we see sort of tech early adopters, then we see social party use, Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights, and then we see utility use. And now our busiest times are morning rush hour.
Oh, nice. Last question, Black Jet. Right, which was Graham, who's like out of Calgary, but are you guys involved in that as well too, where you can book on a private jet the same way you can put on an Uber?
So it's same founder, but it's a totally separate business.
Do you fly around a lot on the jets? Do you find you booking a lot?
I haven't taken it yet.
Well, I just wanted to know what it was like for us, people down at the moment. Thank you very much. Round of applause for Andrew. Okay. Up next, we trot Rob Siegel out all the time from Get Set Games. We've had him speak at a bunch of our monthly events. He's great. I think the gaming industry is really important and we need to be talking about it, and that's why at Crossmedia here you're going to see there's a lot of us talking about gaming and how that integrates. Get Set Games, and Rob Siegel's the co-founder. They have, how many people here have played Mega Jump? Anyone played Mega Jump? So these are the guys that created it. Mega Run, anyone using Mega Run? Awesome. Yes. And they've had a combined total of 40 million downloads, and I've seen them speak a couple times, and I know Rob is going to have some very interesting information for you. So please, round of applause for Rob Siegel.
Okay, I think I've been told how to work this clicker. Very good. So the title of this talk was that, as it's on the slide, chart topping the iOS and Android platforms, but really I should have had a slide for this, but the more accurate description is how long can you stay at the top until Angry Birds trumps you again, which is basically true, and that's kind of what happened with us. Although we did, when Mega Run came out, we were actually beat by a game for, we got to #1 for the US for a couple days, and we weren't beat by Angry Birds, we were beat by Hide the Fart. So that kind of speaks to how volatile the iOS market is.
You are too tall, and I have to move these up.
Please.
Okay? I'm mic guy today.
Is that better, Jeremiah? Okay, sorry about that.
So a bit about the company, Get Set Games and our games. Great to hear that lots of you guys have played our games. Specifically, we generally concentrate on the iOS and Android market. They tend to be the biggest markets, although of course most people tend to spend money on iOS. It's quite a big jump between iOS and Android, although Android is gaining a lot of ground, and I'll speak a little bit about that in some of my slides. So we formed officially as a company in 2009, myself being one of the co-founders with 3 others that we'd all worked at a previous company. Mega Jump was actually our 3rd game. The idea was we would just keep making games when we started the company, and eventually we were hoping one of them would be a hit, and thankfully we didn't have to make too many until that happened. Mega Jump was our 3rd game. Right now we have 26 million downloads of Mega Jump on iPhone. The most in one day was 401,000 in a partnership with OpenFaint, which was bought out by a Japanese company, Gree. You may know them by that name now. And they were a great partnership. They had a promotion called Free Game of the Day. You basically sign up with OpenFaint, and they would promote your game. You would just convert it to free. Initially, we had Mega Jump as 99 cents, and went free with this promotion. Had that number of downloads in a single day. We did a promotion again with them a couple months later. Same sort of result. We had, I think, around 300,000 downloads. As actually over the course of a weekend, for both the times we did the promotion with Mega Jump, we had close to 1 million downloads in a single weekend. And the second time that we did it with Mega Jump, that's basically what put us kind of on the map. We just had this momentum going. I wish I had a good reason for it, but for anyone that's on the iOS market, it's really hard to stay up there and stay up in the charts. But really, it was just keep trying different options, and again, I'll speak a bit about that in a moment. So Mega Run, our game after Mega Jump, came out 18 months, or 18 months was the development time for Mega Run. It came out in May last year. Now has about 12.4 million downloads on iPhones, so it's doing exceptionally well. We had our highest number of downloads in a single day, 760,000. A couple days after launch, Apple picked it up, and it was on like Editor's Choice and in a couple of different categories. And most recently, we had a partnership with Disney and Pixar. They approached us at a conference about a year ago or a couple months ago, and really liked what we were doing, and said, hey, we want to make a game with you guys. So we did a partnership with Monsters, Inc. And those are all available now. So Monsters, Inc. was launched in December and now has about 350,000 downloads. And I'm going to update Gavin because it recently surpassed 50 million downloads across all of our platforms. So a nice step up. So a bit about the market that we're in case some of you may not be familiar. I just pulled some stats from articles I'd been reading through just to get some familiarity with the size of the market. 410 million iOS devices, reference from an article I found that was taken July 2012. 480 million Android devices sold. Of course, Google likes to tout that a lot, but again, if you're a developer, people still spend way more on iOS than they do on Android, and I don't have the exact number for that, but if you email me later, I'd be happy to reference you on exact numbers there. To give you a gauge of some of the bigger titles on those markets, Supercell, who makes Heyday and Clash of Clans. I don't know if anyone has played those games as a quick gauge. All right, well, lots of people do. Okay, good. Lots of people do play those games, and they're making $1 million of revenue a day just from those 2 games. So it's crazy how much money and opportunity is available in the games on the mobile markets. Temple Run 2, of course, launched a couple weeks ago. Temple Run, of course, being immensely popular. They had over 100 million downloads. Imanji Studios was the developer of Temple Run, over 100 million downloads of that. Temple Run 2 broke the record for 50 million download mark in 13 days, and they beat Angry Birds Space, which previously held the record for 35 days, with one precursor that Angry Birds Space was a paid download, and Temple Run 2 was free right away. So I think I may have missed the slide, I'm not sure, but...
You want to go backwards? That's just a little on the back. Going back.
Red one? The red button?
Yeah, the red button should take you back.
Taking it back? That's too far back. Nope, that's okay. I don't see it there, but that was just an intro slide. It wasn't too important, but basically I wanted to focus on a few things of really what's hard in the mobile market is how do you get noticed. And I will precursor that by saying there's no perfect solution there. There's no magic bullet. It's really just trying to keep up what's going on in the market, what are people using, and really just trying to keep abreast of what's going on, talking to people and making connections. So a few of the things that have worked for us, and this was a big one, was having new content and new features. A lot of games will come out, applications will come out, and they'll just launch and that's it. And they just kind of like let it sit there and hope the momentum keeps going for as long as possible. But really, if you want to get noticed, if you want to get attention and downloads, you have to keep updating, you have to put new content. Consider a binary update, because really that is a key thing, at least in the iOS space, is for everyone that has an iPhone, you see when there's like a new version of an application, you get the little notification on your phone, hey, there's a new version of this game or app, so you should go download it. And that helps immensely. Basically, whenever we do an update to like Mega Jump or Mega Run, we see about 1 million people update within a single day. So that's a great opportunity for re-engagement and getting noticed. Cross-promotion is another big one. We've met the folks from Imanji who did Temple Run, Nimblebit, who did Tiny Tower, and Pocket Planes being a few of their big games. They're big names in the mobile space. The great connections to have, and just doing cross-promotions as many as possible is a great way to get noticed. I mentioned earlier OpenFame, which is now Gree. And other people in the mobile space, the other kind of like big players, Tapjoy and Chartboost, ad-based promotional tools. Chartboost is really great for cross-promotion. A lot of people are using that now. Tapjoy was a great tool, and really Apple kind of like cut them down a bit because they didn't like what they were doing with incentivized downloads. All right,
yeah, okay.
That's good enough, sure.
Sorry. No, it's great. Come on over. Sorry that I had to sort of, but it's amazing, the games world. But I want to just bring you over a little bit further, because we're going to bring up Peter to get his laptop ready. So if, and Andrew, Jeremiah, could I have mic number 3? Okay, there you go. You take that one. Just hold it up nice and close to your bit. Sure. So the main thing that, the overview that you guys have is like pretty incredible. But I want you to talk quickly about how your games are pirated so quickly by the Chinese, right? You've done such a great job, and I think the last time you spoke, how are you guys combating this piracy? I mean, they basically ported your game, turned the main character from red to green, and then released it and did a lot of traffic. But that was over a year ago that we talked to you about that. What have you done in the meantime?
Well, we're not doing anything to combat that. Really, it comes down to it's very hard to it's very hard to engage people in a legal sense in the Asian markets. At least that's been our legal advice. So
the legal advice is like, don't even bother, just let them keep doing it.
It's really.
How much money do you think you're losing from them?
I don't want to think about that. But unfortunately didn't get to it, but one of the slides was the Chinese market is something we want to engage in more. I really think the The way to do it is accept it and work with partners in those markets.
And how's that been going? Now that are you putting stuff into the Chinese market? Because I know that the big change was that you decided to make sure that the app, everything was done in game. So people the game was free, but essentially you could buy upgrades, and that helped you combat it a bit. Now you're talking about going into the Chinese market. How do you do that? Because I think there's a lot of people here in the media space, both in in film and TV and publishing, that would be interested in how you're combating that.
Yeah, we've been talking to a few partners in China. There are a couple of well-known ones who will take your game and just convert it for the Chinese market, and they'll basically change it to the Chinese language and make game design suggestions or conversions specifically for that market. I think that's the way to go.
Have you done it yet? You haven't done it yet.
We have not done it yet.
But you're looking at it.
We are definitely looking.
I do want to grab one question out there. Is there anyone with questions from the gaming side? Okay, great. Thank you so much. Wait a minute. I had one more question for you. 1 second. Where did it go? Oh, yes. When you talked about the number of downloads that you had, how are you determining that the downloads are actually being played? Do you have does the data coming back? Because what we've heard is that a lot of people are downloading and actually never playing the game. So what percentage of that is, and why is that happening in the gaming space?
I don't have an exact percentage, so I couldn't say offhand. But definitely for Mega Jump and Mega Run, we use a couple tools for monitoring that. Flurry is one that's well known for analytics in the mobile space, and also Criticism, which we use for crash reporting. Yep. Also has statistics around that.
And what are you finding in terms of download and play?
I couldn't tell you offhand.
Okay.
I can only tell you there's Mega Run probably has around 300,000 people that play every day.
Okay, okay, great. Round of applause for Rob. Thank you very much. Sorry to cut it short. I apologize.
Not at all.
I do want to thank everyone who's tweeting. I mean, we do lots of conferences around the world, and I go to lots of them, and generally no one tweets, no one does anything. You get one guy tweeting, and then two people are having a conversation. It's incredible what's going on. So if you're looking on your Twitter, check out the hashtag CMTO13. There's some interesting discussions going on there, and I really appreciate you guys taking the time to do that. At this conference or this event, it's absolutely no problem. If you want to spend time on your laptop, go for it. We try to keep it interesting and fast. Devin, you had something?
CMTO13 is trending in front.
CMTO is what?
Yeah, it's trending.
I need a moment. I need a moment. Peter, just go. I don't care anymore. I need a moment. Peter Vesnes from Bitcoin. How many people have Bitcoins? How many people have bought Bitcoins? Oh, yeah, of course. Brian from Bitly has Bitcoins. But anyone else have Bitcoins? I don't have any yet. I'm about to buy them. I was talking with the guys. He's going to explain exactly what it is. It's a currency that's disrupting the internet. It's disrupting everything. Banks hate him. Governments are after him. It's awesome. This guy has guns. I'm just kidding. But Bitcoin is revolutionary and disruptive. Here's Peter Vesnes.
Thanks. Hi, guys. I wanted to give you something fun.
Is it working?
No, it'll get there though. Soon, maybe. We'll see. We'll see if that comes along.
I think Ron was saying on Twitter, someone should disrupt PowerPoint, and I agree. I just haven't found anything yet.
It's there.
Okay.
So I'm Peter Vesnes. I'm here to talk about Bitcoins. But that sound is annoying. Can anyone guess what that sound is before we do any more? Each of those beeps is someone sending money with Bitcoin somewhere in the world. Yeah. After the talk, we'll find out how much. Oh, that should turn the sound off. Stop. No. Stop the Bitcoins, please. There we go. So we'll check out how much money was sent while I talked. So let me start with what Bitcoin is, and then I'll tell you what I do, and then I'll tell you what we're going to do together in the 6 minutes we have left. Bitcoin is, I would suggest you think of it as a totally open payment network. It's kind of a weird thing, like PayPal or Visa or or Western Union open sourced and gave away the software and actually the network that lets people send money back and forth. It's created by nerds. It's created by privacy nerds in particular. And I say that proudly. I'm a nerd, so you can think of it that way. Yes. So with that in mind, I will take you through just like, you guys are marketing people, some of you are technology people, like, do you care about this? Do you need to know about it? What do you need to know about it? When do you need to know it? And that's kind of the goal of what I want to tell you about. So I have 2 jobs. My first job, I'm CEO of CoinLab. CoinLab provides 3 things, all of which have been secret until next week, so I'm kind of leaking to you guys. We run the largest Bitcoin exchange in the world. You guys might know it as Mt. Gox if you're Bitcoiners. We're taking it over in US and Canada and announcing next week. We do strategy, and we do services for companies, enterprises that need to just get their head around Bitcoin. So those are the 3 things we do. The Bitcoin Foundation is like the trade organization for Bitcoin, and we launched it last year because people always just kept saying all we were like crazy gun nuts that couldn't get into countries and were stateless and stuff like that. So we started, it's for normal people and normal businesses who want to work with Bitcoin. And my job there is chairman, exec director. So let's talk disruption. I learned a lot from Andrew today, so I added him to my slide. If you think back to like the 60s, what jobs there were, say at IBM, like typists, right? Or if you think about how long it took to get a phone line installed, this is just in my lifetime, what you had to pay to get it in. Or if you think maybe more recently, like how you bought media in the 90s, right? You'd go to a brick and mortar store, you'd browse, you'd endure a snobbish record store person telling you your music taste was terrible, and then you pay cash and you get your thing back. I propose to you that like many of the fundamental ways we transact in business have been disrupted in the last 30, 40 years. And we all feel this thing. You're probably tweeting how great or annoying I am while I'm talking, right? But Mark Andreessen famously said that software is eating the world, right? And I want to propose to you that on top of that, very often the kind of software that has legs long-term is peer-to-peer software. Software that doesn't have a central authority. Software that just lets 2 individual, either computers or people talk. And you use this technology all the time today. Both like at a deep level, like when you're tweeting, you've got peer-to-peer, almost jumps, data jumps. Often those are peered up between different companies that go from your phone to the internet. And then in a lot of really obvious ways, right? So I am interested in the question, like, when will software eat money and what will it look like? Those are my questions that I'm curious about. And I think Bitcoin has a lot to say about that. So what does Bitcoin let you do? I just said, okay, it's a totally open payment network. So Bitcoin will let anybody pay anyone in the world anywhere at any time, down to fractions of a cent if you want. It will let anyone open a bank account. I'm going to open a bank account in my demo in a second. You guys will see how easy it is to open a bank account with Bitcoin. It would let you decide to be a bank. It would let you decide to be a casino if you wanted. And Bitcoins also have another funny thing. They're deflationary, so they tend to get more valuable over time. So it would let you opt into a deflationary monetary system, a little bit like buying gold, but digital gold that you could keep and store and transfer. And there's a caveat, though. When I say anyone, I don't mean just people you like or people you know or nerds. I mean anyone, like your kid, your neighbor. Robots could do this. Software could do this. So like people at Stanford are talking now about robots paying each other with Bitcoin. Okay, so like, I think our world's about to explode. There's so many cool things. But when I say anyone, I mean anyone can do this. So given that, who likes Bitcoin? Like, who's out there right now? So in the U.S., people worry a lot about inflation, and the kinds of people who like Bitcoin in the U.S. for inflationary concerns are weird. Like, you're Canadians, you're fairly, I think of you as happily liberal and sane, unlike many Americans. So there's like New Hampshire libertarians with guns that love Bitcoin because they're convinced that the Fed is destroying the U.S. currency. There are billionaire hedge fund managers in New York City with guns who love Bitcoin because they're convinced that the Fed is destroying the US currency. So there's a wide swath there. Often Bitcoin gets a foothold in countries that don't have very free monetary systems. So like Russia is very popular. Italy, they're popular. The US, I would argue, is not a very free monetary system. So those countries, people tend to want something like this. Nerds, like I talked about. People care about privacy, like if you encrypt your emails, if you browse HTTPS to Facebook, if you don't write all your letters on postcards. People who think like they miss cash. Cash was nice. Why can I not use cash anymore? I want to use cash on the internet. How do I do that? And then speculators, currency speculators. So I made the worst trade of my life. I sold a bunch of Bitcoins.
1 minute.
At 6 cents 2.5 years ago, and they're currently worth $30, so that was too bad. But luckily I bought in later, but they're highly volatile. So let's take our 1 minute and do a totally open payment network demo. This is a bank account. I just went to the site. Here, I'll get another one because I don't like that bank account. I have a bank account. Oh, can I send money to someone in the audience too?
Yes, that's me.
Who? Cell phone. You. Do you have a cell phone?
Yeah.
What is it?
416.
How much do you want? Oh, I don't have that in this account.
What do you have?
There's no fractional reserve here. How about 50?
50's great.
Okay. 50 USD to, tell me your number.
I'm going to have to refund.
Tell me your number.
416.
Yeah,
737.
Yeah.
1373.
13. Now I can do this from my mobile phone too, but I've got a web interface here. I'm going to do it for you. Okay, I claim to have sent it to you. Now you'll see what you get. Meanwhile, while I'm doing that, this is a bank run in France off a server from some guys I've never met. I'm going to send money to my bank account in France, but I'm kind of poor now that I just spent $50 on someone, so I'm going to send just 1/10 of a Bitcoin out there. Okay. Now let's see. Now we'll wait a second. In the next like 10 or 15 seconds, did you get your text?
Yeah.
How much did you get?
$50.02.
Oh, the price went up between when I sent it to her and she got it. And there, I've just sent money to France too. BTC's the Bitcoin.
Can she send that $50 back to you?
Yeah, if she wants.
No, because she can keep the 2 cents, so she's made 2 cents in a transaction, right?
Actually, we charge 1%, so she's going to have to keep her $50.
All right. Okay.
That's a totally open payment network. This guy decided to make a bank with some software. This is incredible. I'm going to go over my minute, but it's okay because this is, I think, really cool. So we're almost done. But he didn't get $50, so I'm doomed. So, okay, when should you be thinking about Bitcoins? Okay, and they're kind of everywhere now. You can buy WordPress subscriptions with them. You can subscribe to Reddit with them. They're a lot of places. If you're in a payment business, if you're in the payments industry, like now is not too early to have a strategy. If you're in a business with high chargebacks, or if you like to speculate in currency, now's a good time. If you retail a low margin business, I would say sometime this year you want to get your head around this. There are competitors to Amazon launching that are 10% cheaper than Amazon consistently because there's no chargebacks and no fees. If you're in media or marketing, I think you just want to have your head around this a little bit. It's kind of why I'm here, so that you know who to direct this way. Any kind of long tail sales. If you're in gaming industry, and by that I mean gambling, you should have a 2013 strategy dealing with Bitcoins. There are large Bitcoin casinos right now. Brick and mortar, next year probably. Enterprise, you might ignore it. I hope we'll hit banks, and then you will get your standard services with them in a couple of years. We'll skip everything to consider. You can come talk to me later. So how do you get started? You can email me in North America. We're looking for a partner to run a Canadian exchange, if you know someone. Asia and Europe, you've got those. And those numbers, if you get slide decks later, you'll get them. And buy some Bitcoin and join the foundation and support us. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Round of applause. All right. Are there questions? There's a question. Let's go right here, and then Maria at the back. Is there?
Yeah.
How do you make a deposit?
Sorry. How do you make a deposit? Yep.
Well, it's kind of like gold. You have to get gold to deposit it. You need to buy Bitcoins. So it's an asset you buy. You could buy some from her. She's got some now. Okay. Or that's actually what CoinLab does. If you're in, so this is our new site. If you go to the site, you'll see the old site, which is all a sham. So you'll just see here, buy Bitcoin. And this is a kind of real-time trades pricing right here. So
with a credit card, or
you cannot easily buy with a credit card
PayPal?
because chargeback and fraud. So you're going to wire, you're going to ACH, you're going to pay cash. So cash, I know, do you have cash? So the issue...
How do you, wait a minute, how do you use cash on...
No. Once you buy them, they're yours. They're in your... It's just like having digital gold.
I'm really confused. Peter, I'm really confused. Stop, you're hurting my brain. What if I can't use my Visa, I can't use my PayPal, and I have to... but I can't use cash, because I can't... Do I walk up to a teller and say, I want this in my Bitcoin account?
Yeah, absolutely. So many businesses exist to do this. And if you just search buy Bitcoin in Canada, you'll find a long list. But if you want to buy a lot of them or trade them, you should call CoinLab. If you just want like 5 Bitcoins for fun, then just search buy Bitcoin in Canada and you'll have 10 options at least.
Yeah. At the back there, Jay, way at the back.
Thank you here about the success and the disruption. What do you think is your biggest challenge to going mainstream?
What's your biggest challenge going mainstream?
So, this question Bitcoin is doing maybe a couple $1 billion a year in payments right now, and we're far from mainstream, but there's a lot of momentum already. I think the things that 2013, the most important thing is just answering this question, how do I get them? Consumers want them. Like, people want something that's that they can opt into some deflation. They think it's cool to have. So like all Bitcoin businesses that I know are just like, their big problems are like their banks letting them do enough transaction volume so that the banks don't freak out at how many people want to buy them.
Okay, so, we're going to have this discussion afterwards. I have to move on because we've got other stuff going, but I do want to ask you one last question. How many emails or stuff do you get from the banks? How are they trying to shut you down? I mean, I've read all sorts of stuff that's happening. Where is it at with the banks?
Banks are very progressive. The government's interested in it, wants to talk to us. Like, this is just a super disruptive technology. So I've never heard anyone complain to me about it, except reporters who want to write salacious Bitcoin stories.
Salacious Bitcoin stories. Thank you very much. Round of applause for... Thanks. Okay. We're going to keep going. Jonathan, can we put up the thing? As you know, we're trying to be very interactive. You guys are probably getting a bit of a lull. So we want to do a quick poll. It's a live poll. It's in real time. So pull out your mobile phone. Yay. We're going to have fun. Yay. Oh, Gavin. Awesome. You're the greatest. How often do you go on Facebook? So the code is this number here. So you type to 37607, so that's who you're sending it to. So think of 37607 as Gavin. And then text which code, so put then in the text area where you would send to me one of these numbers, and you'll see it start happening in real time. Go ahead and text.
Where's never?
What, never?
607.
I didn't put never on there. That's a good point. Don't text if you never go. What's 10 minutes? Oh, you know what? Okay, so clearly I failed, you all. I didn't put it on enough. So, okay, we've got a bunch of people that are going, some people are going on monthly. Wow, everyone's going on hourly, so everyone's been on it this morning today, a lot of people. Over 24 people have been on it this morning. Still texting, still coming in. Wow, it's getting bigger, higher. So it's basically hourly. Most of the people here would say, what do we got, 27? We've got daily for sure. Okay, great. Wasn't that fun? Did everyone have fun? Yeah, we're going to do more of those. It's going to be awesome. Oh, I can't believe it actually worked. I'm like so stunned. And we're trending. My day's done. I can go home. It's great. Okay, I want to keep moving along because we've got lots of great speakers. I just recently met her, and I got to say I was pretty blown away. Her name's Ipsa Desai. She is from Google. She's part of strategic partnerships at YouTube. She's going to talk about YouTube today. But if you get an opportunity to chat with her, she has had an incredible career. In fact, she's been all over the world, worked on some of the most strategic stuff inside Google, extremely intelligent person. And when I met her, I could just tell that she's seen lots of things that she will never be able to tell me about inside Google. So I keep asking about Google Glass, and she's like, no, I can't talk about that. I don't even know. I'm like, you know. I know you know. So without further ado, I'd like to bring her on. She manages the strategic partnerships for YouTube, focusing on TV, music, sports, and news. She was previously a principal in business operations and strategy group in Google, based out of Mountain View, California. Ipsa has recently returned to her Canadian roots, yay us, and is now on the hunt for the best restaurants in Toronto. Feel free to give her suggestions. Please welcome Ipsa.
Should be a video playing in just a second.
2005, we at YouTube have continually strived to bring you the best possible video experience on the internet. But that is all about to change. Our latest innovation gives you a way to literally hold YouTube in your hand. Introducing the YouTube Collection on DVD. It's the complete YouTube experience, completely offline. Enjoying YouTube videos has never been easier. With the YouTube Collection, DVDs have been conveniently organized into a system of nested modules. Simply navigate through the modules until you find the DVD of your choice. Each DVD menu is populated with video thumbnails. Just like on YouTube.com, you can select your playback resolution. And yes, full screen mode is available if desired. The YouTube Collection doesn't require the internet, but you don't lose interactivity. Just fill out the comment form and place it in one of the self-addressed stamped envelopes. Don't forget to throw in a green thumbs up or a red thumbs down. Your feedback will be sent directly to the creator of that particular video, so you can maintain the dialogue that you're used to. The YouTube Collection isn't just a sampling of YouTube, it's all of YouTube. Every YouTube video uploaded ever. As soon as you sign up, we'll dispatch a fleet of 175 YouTube trucks to your home. Your nested video modules will arrive securely shrink-wrapped on pre-categorized pallets. If you live on a steep grade or in an area with low overpasses, your DVDs will be delivered by pack mule. Since approximately an hour of video is uploaded to YouTube every second, you'll receive a new truckload every week. And if you sign up now, we'll give the entire DVD library to a friend or relative of your choice, totally free. Visit youtube.com/the YouTube Collection. Order now and select from a number of free add-ons, including trending videos on Laserdisc, royalty-free soundtracks on vinyl, or weatherproof exterior DVD shelving for when your collection gets too large for the inside of your home. Order the YouTube Collection on DVD. Simple, economical, convenient. A whole new way to enjoy the videos you love.
So as you can imagine, that didn't quite do very well. We didn't have too many orders. But I'm here today to talk to you about YouTube and how it's changing what we watch. So I'll start off with a few quick stats. There's roughly 800 million people that come to YouTube every month, and they collectively watch 4 billion hours of content every month. So every minute, 72 hours of content are uploaded to YouTube. We're localized in about 50 countries and 60 languages. So long story short, it is a large and global platform. So I want to talk a bit about how YouTube has changed what's created, the kind of video content we create. And there's a couple factors that affect this. So one is, if you think about how the cost of creating video has changed over the past 10 years, it's become a lot more accessible and a lot cheaper. So now everyone can create. There's a couple things about YouTube that make it kind of a unique place to create video. So some of the constraints, if you think about traditional television, there are restrictions and things that you must do in order to make it work. And a lot of those restrictions don't apply on YouTube. So for example, format. You can have a 15-second video, you can have a 2-minute video, it could be 7 minutes. There's no requirement that it's 22 or 44 minutes. And so creators can focus on creating the right length of content for what they're making. The other piece that's relevant on YouTube is that we have no capacity constraints, theoretically. We're still working on it. But if you think about traditional television, if you think about when we went from a few broadcast channels to hundreds of cable channels, what that meant for content. You could now have a fashion channel or ESPN4, which obviously couldn't exist when you only had 3 channels. So now if you move over to the YouTube world, where there really is no constraint on space, and on top of that, we don't have a linear broadcast. Everything is on demand. So now you can create even smaller niches of content. So example would be fitness for pregnant people. So you couldn't create a cable channel just on that because you need enough content to fill an entire channel, and you also need enough people who want to watch it. But on YouTube, you can have 20 minutes of content a week, and that's still sufficient. And your audience, which is global, those 800 million people, a lot of them have to be pregnant. They will be interested in this. I think the last portion that is different on YouTube is that it's searchable, and not by title, but by topic. So can you imagine with traditional television being able to search for Drake videos? I love Drake. Yay, Canada. You can't do that. And now on YouTube, you can. You can search by topic, and you can search by the item that you're looking for when you want it, because it's all on demand. So what does this mean is happening? If you think about the new types of content that are being created, that are emerging on YouTube, there's a couple different categories I want to call out. So one is tutorials. We saw the how to open a milk carton. But it's actually really relevant, because when you think about just the tactical things you need to do day to day, having a video to help you learn how to do it is very helpful. Moments. Now these are the things that YouTube is famous for. So everyone has, I'm sure, experienced really funny or amazing moments in their lives. If you're lucky, you catch them on tape, and now they can be shared. One of my favorite ones is, there's a 29-year-old woman who was born deaf, and she experiences sound for the very first time, and her husband tapes it. And he tapes it, and she experiences sound for the first time. The first thing she hears is herself laughing and crying. It is super moving, and millions of people have seen it because her husband put it up on YouTube. And those are the types of moments that I think are now shareable because of the platform. The last category, I don't even know what to call it. I call it like the new premium. But there's content on YouTube that isn't the traditional home video content that we're used to seeing. It's produced, it's edited well, it's thoughtful, sometimes it's scripted, it's entertaining. Who here has heard of Epic Mealtime? Yay, my favorite channel. They're amazing. And so having access to, or having that type of content available on YouTube, that's just the new type of premium that you see. So the second piece I want to talk about is how YouTube is changing what we watch. So if you think about YouTube, it's kind of like a creative democracy, or maybe anarchy, depending on how you think about it. But basically, anyone can contribute to the platform, anyone with access to the internet and a video camera, an uplink, decent uplink, and everyone votes. So now the bar to be in front of 800 million people is that a lot of the people have to watch it. They spend their time and they spend their votes. And now what does this mean? How does this impact what we see? Who here has heard of Psy? Gangnam Style, yeah. Who here has heard enough about Psy? Yeah, I won't talk too much about him. But if you think about radio, so whoever picks the songs that show up on the radio, they do a great job. They understand what users want, they pick, and they're experts. Same with television. People filter. People write scripts, and they're experts who understand what will work, that filter and bring the content that we get on TV that we know and love today. But now on YouTube, you can see users voting. An individual can't, it's impossible to monitor or filter through all the world's content. So in music, for example, there's no way, if you saw Psy a year ago, that any expert would be able to predict how it would have done. And so now, because we have a global audience contributing content, and we have a global audience voting, stuff floats to the top. That's really exciting.
Right. All right, let's move to some questions. Are there any questions out there regarding YouTube? I know there are, because we were there earlier. Anyone? I have so many. Do you want me to go? Yes. Okay. There are a lot of things happening on YouTube, and when Corey was here earlier, we were talking about some of the big changes. The views aren't really views anymore. Can you talk about how YouTube and Google is looking at the future of online video as we move into this mobile space, and how you're changing what constitutes a view and an engagement?
Yeah, I think previously, as Gavin mentioned, it was all about the view. How many views did you get? But I think the way we're starting to shift is we're thinking about not only the view, but how much time people spend. Because that's the true currency. If I could watch 100 10-second videos, but if I spend every day watching 20 7-minute videos, that's a different level of engagement. I actually really like your content. And it's not just about watching and the watch time, but about do you share it? That is the biggest indicator to us as to whether or not people like that content. Because 72 hours a minute are being uploaded. We need to get really smart really fast about how we show you what you like. Right? Because when you search on YouTube, you're not asking to answer a question like you would on Google search. You're asking for content that you want to watch, that you might like. That's a much tougher problem to solve. So the cues that we're looking at are you sharing this content? Do you like it? Are you spending your time? That's your biggest currency that you have, right? Watching it. And that's how we're thinking about the future of video.
How do you make money on YouTube? But more importantly, how do you get discovered?
Like, there seems to be an inordinate amount of stuff that just goes to the top for no apparent reason. Now, we've tried everything, I'm not gonna lie, right? We've bought the 100,000 views to try and get it up into the jet stream. That didn't work. We bought the 10,000 views, hoping that people would, and we buy them in 24 hours. We've manipulated it, Dylan over there is our YouTube expert. And I mean, we've sat for hours, crushing all of the different types of tags and things like that. But at the end of the day, it seems almost random when people come and see your stuff. So what's the formula? Can you give us an idea of what are you guys doing at YouTube to help us?
Yeah, so if there was a secret formula, I would probably be out there making YouTube videos that are going to go viral. But I mean, I think that there are...
Okay, I get it.
But no. But I mean, there are a lot of best practices, things that you need to do in order to make sure that when you do put your content up, we can find it. Sharing is really important, and audience engagement is really important.
Now, what do you mean about sharing?
So basically, trying to have calls to action in your video that encourage people to share your content, to subscribe to your channel, to to like it. Those types of actions, you want to encourage people to do that. You also want to leverage, a lot of the people that are on YouTube, some of them are lucky enough to already have an audience, right? Think of your traditional organizations. So if you already have an audience, and they're just, if you think about how many people are on YouTube, more likely than not, they're probably there. So just leveraging the fact that you already have an audience, you already have a method of communicating with your audience, tell them to go to your YouTube channel. So that's part of it. And at the end of the day, it's kind of about that creative democracy we talked about. It's a lot of people have to like it.
Last thing, Canada leads the world in video views. We are number one. Number one. And I don't think a lot of people realize this. So what are we doing right? And what are we doing wrong? What could we improve on? Because it's clear that people are watching a lot of video, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of people making a ton of money. Yes, Corey's making some money, but there aren't big businesses coming out of there.
Yeah, well, I mean, we do have some. We have folks like Broadband TV, which is an MCN locally. I think in Canada we have kind of two situations going on, right? So on the viewer side, we have viewers who are one of the top in terms of consumption of video content. And I've heard a lot of explanations. Someone has said cold winters and nothing to do, but I think it's just that we love our content, we love our media. And on the creator side, so our creators, if you look at Canadian creators and how much they make globally, they actually do very well. They're in the top segment. And I think that's because we have a really amazing ecosystem here that supports creators. And so in terms of what we're doing right, I mean, we're generating these incredible creators that are global. Like Epic Mealtime is a great example. If you think on the on the music front, Justin Bieber, he started off on YouTube. And so we are doing a lot right there. In terms of what we can do, it's just more. I think we can get a little more open to trying to mix the traditional world with YouTube and experimenting on the platform. I mean, I can predict what's going to happen as well as anyone can, but just try it out. If we think about our traditional companies and the traditional content that we have, try putting it on YouTube and see what happens. If it works, fantastic. I have a strong hunch that it'll work. But if it doesn't, then you can try something else.
Nice. Thank you very much. Round of applause for IPSA. Moving right along, we have another gaming person here, except he is doing something a little bit different. We're inching towards lunch, so don't worry, it's coming. I don't want you to, conk out. So Tony Walsh, he's the founder and executive producer and creative director of Phantom Compass, and he's going to be talking about extending IP across platforms. Yes, we could have talked a lot about gaming today, but Rob did a great job on talking about apps and what they're doing. What we wanted Tony to talk about was IP and how he's dealing with moving IP across the platforms, and that means intellectual property. So I'll just give you a quick, Tony's been a contributor to a number of award-winning and award-nominated digital productions, including Xenophile Media's Regenesis and Fallen. He's now the founder of Toronto-based game studio Phantom Compass. And we recently had Tony speak at our monthly Jumpwire speaker series here in Toronto, and it was great. Please welcome Tony Walsh.
Hello. I am hopefully the last white bald guy that will talk about gaming today. Just a little, I got to figure out the clicker here. Oh, look at that. So Phantom Compass is a small independent game development studio based here in Toronto. We also have an office in St. Catharines. And for the past 5 years, we've mostly been making Flash games for TV producers, largely in the Toronto area. And currently we have 5 games in production. Most of those are nearing the end of their development cycle, and all of them are slated for digital distribution rather than traditional retail. So we're kind of like a less successful version of Get Set Games. My company is part of kind of a growing force in the games industry known as indie games. Oh, the clicker, for crying out loud. Oh, it's a big green button, not the other green button that looks like a star. I got it. I'm good. Right, so we're kind of in the same categories, indie film, indie music. You know, it kind of looks like small potatoes initially, but we're actually chipping away at the mainstream game industry. We usually court a different kind of gamer, a different breed of gamer. They're interested more in casual and mid-core gaming than hardcore gaming. They're in mobile, they're in social. And our budgets are a tiny fraction of mainstream game industry budgets. That industry is the AAA industry, the blockbuster game industry. We work with much shorter timelines, much smaller budgets, but we're still, as a smaller industry, grassroots industry, we are kind of chipping away a little bit at the mainstream. So what's helping us do that are digital distribution channels like Steam and the App Store that allow us to shake up the traditional publishing industry. And also big publishers and developers are kind of relying on predictable formulas to generate hits, and that is actually working to their detriment a little bit. We're starting to lose some of the larger companies in this space like THQ and Atari. Meanwhile, indie games are getting noticed for being original and innovative and artistic, kind of pumping values that maybe were a bit forgotten about in the mainstream, more commercial game space. Also, the tools we use are accessible and they're cheap. We use Unity technology, which is a multi-platform game development technology, so we can get our games on lots of different platforms relatively easy, and certainly easier than it's been in say 5 years ago. And we can also self-publish and self-distribute for the reasons I mentioned earlier, which is great because publishers won't really fund small studios anymore. Instead, we're forced to kind of raise our own capital, and that can come from VCs or angels. It can come from crowdfunding like Kickstarter. It can also come from public funders here in Canada. We're lucky to have the CMF, and in Ontario we have OMDC we can turn to sometimes for some support. So late last year, we were successful in raising about $400K for our current flagship production, which is called Rollers of the Realm. And I'll show you a little clip from that. So Rollers of the Realm combines the drama of role-playing games, the challenge of puzzle play, and the fun of pinball. It's a casual action game we're building in Unity for PC and iPad initially, and other platforms down the road. And in the game, we have an epic narrative woven around 30 pinball puzzle boards and 10 playable characters. Each pinball board represents a scene in our story where each member of the adventuring party can be played as a pinball. Some scenes involve exploration, some scenes involve puzzles, and most feature some kind of battle. And in the battle, enemies can wear down your pinball flippers. And there's enemies on the pinball field, as you can see in the screenshots. The storyline introduces each character into the party and brings the adventurers into towns, forests, battlefields, mines, and dungeons of the realm. So the more we develop the story and characters, the more we began to create a universe bigger than a single game on a couple of platforms. So to us, we started to get interested in bringing this into more of a transmedia space. Where can we take this one game, where can we take the IP of this game, the story world that we created, the universe behind this game, how far can we push that? So why would we bother with transmedia? Usually it's larger companies might dabble in that. We're a small company. We don't have a ton of money behind us. But we think it could possibly solve some problems for us. We face a flooded market in games distribution channels, so there's just too much competition, and therefore product visibility is a huge challenge for small studios. The industry is hit-driven, so is our game going to be a hit? It's pretty tough to make a hit. And one game on one platform is only going to give you one entry point into the IP and a certain type of engagement. And with one game, we only have one source of revenue. So we want to open more entry points into the brand and engage our audience in an ongoing dialogue. We want to gather data so that we can make informed product development choices across platforms and engage communities where they live. And we have a low marketing budget, so we need to give fans something to talk about and something to share organically. So how are we going to do this? First, we're going to span even more game genres. So Rollers of the Realm has arcade, puzzle, action, and story. Let's push some other gamer buttons and see where that goes. So later this year, we plan to launch a casual tactical card game based on the Rollers story world. And this game is actually referenced in the original Rollers of the Realm game, so we're already kind of planting the seeds for the next edition to come out. This is not a sequel. It's a totally different game that uses completely different game mechanics. And hopefully it'll answer questions that the players of the original game might have about the story and characters, or it could introduce new players to the world of Rollers of the Realm. Oh, thanks. So by this time next year, we hope to launch a casual skill game set in the Rollers universe. Think mini golf meets Diablo. It'll have the same kind of skill gaming as Angry Birds, so you can take your time playing this. It's a great game for commuters. I'm just going to switch ahead super quick here. Let's see. We've got a graphic novel planned. So this is a long-form exploration of our story and characters, getting into details we can't show or tell in the games. We can publish to e-readers, smartphones, tablets. We can print unique product codes that are redeemable for downloadable content. And hopefully what we're going to do with this is increase our visibility and our viability. We're rerouting production dollars into marketing dollars, and hopefully by doing that, we're bolstering the entire IP rather than going with just one silo. I'll just wrap it up quick because I know you guys are short on time. So maybe we can just do Q&A.
Great. Thank you. What is it with you bald gaming guys going over?
And here I thought I'd stick to my notes and it would all be fine.
Let's go for questions quickly. Any questions on the gaming side, on the IP side? Talk to me about the lawyers.
Sure. I mean,
what are you doing? Talk to me. When you talk about IP and transferring it, the biggest thing we've heard about is that dealing with IP across platforms is a legal nightmare. How are you guys dealing with that?
Well, so we have this planned from the get-go. So when we do contracts with talent or employees or whoever, we are always covering future use of the media. In fact, it's integral to our whole production plan. So when we're going to produce this stuff, we know that we've got all rights in perpetuity, et cetera, et cetera. You know, we contract very carefully with musicians in particular because residuals and stuff like that, actors, the same deal. Unfortunately, we're non-union, but you know, we have to carve out a path for ourselves that's going to be unencumbered.
Nice. And then I guess the last question is that when you look at gaming, you're starting in the gaming space, but yet you're spreading out. Are you working on anything that starts in a different space and comes to gaming?
Not so far. With Rollers, we're starting game first, but usually it goes in reverse. Usually you'll have young adult fiction that's popular, somebody makes a game out of it, or there's a movie with a licensed tie-in. So we're going to try to do that the other way and see how that goes.
Great. Round of applause for Tony Walsh.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Up next, we have Presley. So this is the best practices for content marketing on mobile. So Jeff Branner, he's the co-founder. He's basically been doing startups since he was an infant, which is great. That's what it says here. It says infants. But I do trust that he was a very highly motivated infant. I just like the word infant. Jeff is helping brands and publishers create the world's best content experiences on mobile. This is another mobile context. Please welcome Jeff.
So green button, right? Top one. So yes, I'm going to talk about a couple best practices when it comes to mobile content marketing. Just give a real quick background on Presley. We've been doing this for 2 years. We were early embracers of HTML5, and initially we were very focused on Tier A publishers. So we did some great stuff with brands like The Economist, Ziff Davis, the Toronto Star, and it was all great. But what we've been seeing a lot more opportunity and interest lately is the content marketing space. You know, it's clearly something that's changing how brands and businesses are communicating with their audience, and we think mobile is going to play a big part of that. So, you know, in the 2 years I've been doing this, if I had to look back and say, you know, what are the 2 best practices for doing successful content on mobile? I would say you need to focus on the mobile web. It's much more important than the native app stores. Not for every type of app, but particularly in the content space. And the other one is to design for the user context and not just the screen size. So let me tell you what I mean by that. So the mobile web is where your users are, and it's where they prefer to be. Okay, all of our clients, the vast majority of their mobile traffic they get is from the mobile web, not their native mobile apps. And the reasons for that are pretty simple when you look at it. With the mobile web, you can leverage SEO, you can leverage search. People like to Google for content. These are still huge drivers of traffic, and you're being led to the web. At the same time, social amplification. So all the stuff that's being shared on Twitter and Facebook, everyone's sharing links. They're not sharing native apps. So when they click on that on these devices, at the end of the day, they're being led to the mobile web. And I'd say one of the other big things is that it's no longer a single platform ecosystem, right? I mean, iOS is still arguably the most important platform, but Samsung is shipping a lot of Android devices. And now you have the new BlackBerry phones and Windows 8. It's just too big of a segment to ignore. And the thing is, with native apps, you're stuck to those platforms, whereas an HTML5 mobile app, you can take that across devices. This next point on user context is really important. You know, you need to acknowledge that smartphones and tablets aren't desktops. So you can't just take your website, which is built for desktops, and just shrink it to the smaller screen for these devices. And if you do that, I can show you numbers on, you're actually missing out on a huge opportunity. So an example of this would be things like tailored UX, right? So what we see on the tablet is that people prefer more of a lean-back experience. They want to spend more time with the content. We've seen that when our customers have delivered their content in a start-to-finish storytelling experience, it has a great impact on engagement. They're more willing to spend time with more engaging ads, as Deb mentioned in her previous presentation. And you know, it's some little things like on tablets, people prefer to swipe left and right. Whereas on smartphones, you know, it's more about quick browsing. You want an uncluttered interface, one-handed operation, and on smartphones, people prefer to swipe up and down. So what we've seen are some really great results, right? So with that kind of immersive start-to-finish storytelling experience, we've seen clients increase their engagement by up to 10x using this type of practice. When they're not struggling to develop you know, native apps for all the different platforms, they have more time to focus on the most important part with content marketing, which is building great content. And at the same time, and it relates also to what Deb showed in her deck, was there's a real opportunities for some really cool and compelling calls to action and advertisements on these devices. So I'm going to really quickly show you a demo of that in action. I'm going to show you the Toronto Star on a tablet, and then show you that call to action, and then the Toronto Star on an iPhone. So you can see here, this is through the web browser, right? This is not a native app, it's all HTML5, and it's that kind of immersive, full-screen, swipeable experience that really takes you through the content. You can tap on articles, you can pinch to close, and it's pretty amazing the numbers that we're seeing here. Here's that infinity ad, right? So you're able to swipe around, and Deb was saying, you know, people spending 9 minutes on this one advertisement, and what you don't get the perspective of is actually if you move the device, it's moving around within there. And then, so here's that same Toronto Star content being automatically tailored to a different screen size, right, for that user context as they use it, right? So it's pretty straightforward, you know. It's even smartphones and tablets aren't the same thing. So it's really important to deliver the optimized experience for these. And I think, I'm sure some people will have some questions about responsive design, so maybe I'll leave that and we can get to that next.
Great, thank you very much. Round of applause, please.
You know, you're sort of the second person to talk about mobile, and this whole responsive, and I saw some of the tweets that some people are interested in about the HTML scenario.
Right.
What happened with HTML5? It was this, where did it go so wrong?
I don't know.
I got a question here, so if we could grab a, yeah.
Okay. Was that a question?
No, you go for me. I'm just going to get a mic there. Yep.
Oh, okay. So it hasn't gone wrong. It's actually, it's pretty great. When you use a Presley publication on HTML5, it's very difficult to see the difference between that and say a native app. Now, there's a lot of talk around Mark Zuckerberg coming out and saying, HTML is not 5 ready for our product. And a native app for Facebook made total sense. It's a huge software company. They have a lot of talented developers. I mean, they were crazy not to do that. It's also much heavier on the utility side of things. But when it comes down to content, I can promise you the future of content is on the web. It is the #1 discovery engine out there, and if you're just siloing your content to these native apps, you are missing out on so many people sharing and engaging with that. And I think it's pretty exciting, actually. We're just about to launch the next version of Presley, and you'll be pretty surprised what we can achieve with HTML5.
Nice. I'm looking forward to it. Well.
So yeah, I think your demo of the car ad is really impressive. Also, I think it's really impressive that you can take your content and sort of distribute it in different forms, more or less automatically. And I understand why you're doing that. But the funny thing is that I've reverted back to this.
Right.
I'm a subscriber to Press Display. They deliver the global mail to me every day. I read it on my iPhone. I read it on my iPad. The computer experience is less than desirable, but what I love is just being able to have that sort of the feeling that I'm reading the newspaper, and also the stories that are different from what you would find online. So I'm not too sure I agree. Like, in the temporary scale, yeah, sure, the web is king. And there's a lot of issues with that, though. There's people not making money, so we're going to have to go back somehow to this old format of subscription, and which means, content is king, which means you have to actually pay the journalist, and you have to actually get in-depth stories. And maybe that's why I like reading it in that way. But I don't even like, in Press Display, you can click the link, and you can get the sort of like soft format. I don't like that.
Do you have a question, or just more of a comment?
Well, the question is, how do you address that with your platform? And do you think that I'm just being old-fashioned, or is there some sense to that?
No, not at all. I mean, I think, first of all, your main point that content's the most important thing, and that's absolutely true. Right, and when I said the two best practices, I was coming out from where we come at it in terms of the technology. But at the end of the day, if you want to do good mobile marketing or good publishing on mobile, you got to have great content. So absolutely, you need well-paid journalists and writers and doing that sort of thing. I don't really see how this conflicts with what you're looking for, though. I mean, what this really does is deliver a more engaging content experience for that content. I mean, it's the exact same content in the paper is on that app, and it gives you a format where it's more engaging. And then what's neat is there's that kind of natural fit for these full screen interstitial ads that can come in that actually help that publisher better monetize than those banner ads and big box ads we've seen to date.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there because we've got another question. Thanks, Roel.
Hi, I'm Brian from Discovery. I had a question about just the responsive designs. One, developmentally, do you find that it expands your options in terms of design, being that you have to design around the idea that this is going to be absorbed on multiple different platforms? Because with apps, you kind of have an idea if it's going to be on these 2 or 3 different platforms. And then going forward with that, if there's new campaigns or anything that's going to be changing on the site, does that allow more or less flexibility in terms of what you can do, knowing that it has to be, for lack of a better word, scalable?
Right. So, it's interesting, responsive design. I mean, big proponents of responsive design. Parts of Presley are responsive. You can stick that same tablet, full iPad app on an iPad mini and it works fine. But I think what we see is that responsive design is that first step on basically taking your current website and shrinking it down to that screen size so that it's legible and readable and you can work with it. And I think every site should have that. But what Presley's really good at is taking a step further for these devices, delivering the best content experience on them. And when you do that, we see, well, you have these great levels of new engagement that you can achieve, right? So it's not like Presley or responsive design. And we make Presley, it's a plug and play. You drop your RSS feeds in it, you create an app in 20 seconds that can be brought across all these platforms. But responsive makes a lot of sense. You're not going to use Presley to do a restaurant app because it's utility. There's a lot of other things there. So I don't think it's a one or the other. I think there's things where responsive makes a lot of sense for, but then when you want that awesome content experience with these swipeable and immersive calls to action, that's where something like Presley
really
comes in.
Round of applause for Jeff, please. Thanks. Okay, moving along. Up next, we have Laurie Mirsky. He's the president of 3D Factory. We, as Jumpwire, the whole team went to the 3D Factory because, you know, about, I think it was like 2 or 3 months ago we went, and we had a day trip there, and I think it was part of our Christmas lunch or something. And we went to the 3D Factory. We were all like salivating and taking Instagrams. I mean, if you follow us on Instagram, you'll see like we were. But it was really interesting because the way that we discovered it, it was like through friends, and then we went to it and saw the units, and it is so impressive, but it doesn't happen fast. So what I thought by bringing Laurie in is we just wanted to give a good overview of what 3D printing is, how it works, and what he's doing with his factory. I think he's got a couple of printers there, and how he's using it. So please welcome Laurie Mirsky.
Thank you. Great. So for people who are new to 3D printing, I'm going to take you a little bit through the technical aspects of how it actually works. There's been a lot of press about 3D printing. There's a lot of different types of printing, and oftentimes you'll see in the media coverage, it's kind of described as an all-in-one process where everything just happens at once. But actually, there's different type of printers for different type of processes, and I'll take you through the technical aspect and then talk a little bit about what we're doing with it. So, and this is, okay, so initially you need to take a design from 3D CAD software, draw it up, and input it into the printer. That is the first thing that is often a barrier for people using it. You can go and download files and print it on something like a MakerBot, but in order to do something complex, you have to have quite a strong understanding of CAD software. So the computer inside the printer takes the software and divides it up slice by slice. And then the printer head will then take those slices and move back and forth, depositing a layer of build material and then curing it. This allows the printer to print complex geometry that you can't do through conventional manufacturing processes. And it gives you an example here with the spiral and the jewelry piece. Sorry, this is actually the wrong. So this gives you an example of how the printer works. The head is moving back and forth, depositing the liquid. The UV light cures it at the same time, and so as it moves back and forth, the print is finished. Can you roll video? See, the head is moving back and forth. There's the finished object. It's surrounded in a support material. The support, you can, sorry. The support material is removed, and there's the final product. This type of printer is a multiple material printer, which allows you to combine rubbers, plastics, and build a number of different objects at the same time. An example here, these are all products that were built in one pass. The printer came along, printed all those at the same time, and they were cured and ready for finishing. So this is the wrong presentation. But here are the finalized parts. We have a wrench that was fully completed. There's a chain, which we have an example of outside. There's a watch, and that is actually as a 3D printed gun, which we're not really supposed to talk about. As it moves from product industrial development, it's starting to move into the arts. So in this particular case, we're using this in animation. We've printed characters here. You can see the high details, and what it allows us to do is for the animators to go from the screen, print out an actual character, and then examine it in terms of, in this particular case, we often use it to examine the aspects of how the light falls on the character. In terms of product design, it allows the product designer to work in much faster cycles. So in this case, we were working with a product designer, Swave. They were doing a Bluetooth speaker. They were able to do several iterations of the speaker. We were able to print it for them over each day. They would do another variation. Their client was kind of behind the gun. We were able to print it out. They were waiting for a prototype from China that was late in arriving. We were able to print it out, paint it for them on the Friday, and they were at CES on the Monday with the Bluetooth speaker, which actually sold quite well. Now, it's moving, again, beyond product design. This is a chair sculpture by a woman named Neri Oxman, who's a scholar at MIT and also an artist. And she wrote the actual code for this, as well as designed the actual, this is actually a chair, a chaise lounge, and this is sort of legendary as kind of the best that can be possibly done with 3D printing. Now, it's also moving into fashion. This is an example of a 3D printed dress that was at Paris Fashion Week this year. This was, the dress was designed by Iris, but the actual coding was written by Neri, who had done the previous, the chair that you saw. Now, the other thing is now with 3D printing, you're able to customize things for the customer. So in this particular case, Nokia with their new phone, I'm sure you saw this on the internet, they had a campaign where you were able to customize your phone case and choose which one you want and have it printed. We often do phone cases where people have their names on the back, or they'll do their own design, and we can do it for any different phone. It's also moving into medical. In this particular case, you see they'll do a 3D scan of a body part, in this case a skull, print an actual replacement part in a medical material, and allow it to fit exactly for that person. On the right, you see that's an example of an arm brace for a young girl who has a muscular disorder. And that brace, as it's the plastic pieces are printed for her, and as she grows, they keep printing new braces and allow her to just keep the structure and use the support.
About 30 seconds.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah, sorry, that was the wrong pitch.
Great. Thank you very much. Round of applause for Laurie, please. Are there any questions out there? If you have a question, put your hand up and ask. Now, you're working a lot on movie sets, and they're using this technology to build things. How is it being used in movies, and what exactly are you doing?
Well, actually, we're using this to build props. Oftentimes, you'll get a script will come along. There's items in the script that just don't exist. So we're able to draw them out and quickly print them. And the nice thing about these is they're prototype pieces, and you can take a look at them, get the studio to approve them, get the director to approve them, and have them on the set within a week.
How much do these things cost to make?
It's about $5 a cubic centimeter for the combined material for the sophisticated building, the multiple materials. And then for the things like the MakerBot, which are home printers, which are not nearly as sophisticated, they run about $2 a square foot.
Now you have a MakerBot out there, and it's an extruding 3D printer, right?
That's correct.
Right. And what are you guys printing today?
We're printing some Star Wars figures, I believe.
Okay. So if people want a Star Wars figure, which ones are you printing?
We'll have to see.
Okay. Whatever Star Wars figure you want, just go. I'm just kidding. Space Invaders. Yeah, was there a question? Yes, in the back.
My name's Andrew. I was just wondering what the build quality is like with the more professional 3D printers, and what kind of longevity you can expect from 3D printed products.
Well, we print with the Objet, which is kind of the state-of-the-art printer, and so it's you can see the detailing outside. It's down to 0.18 microns in terms of accuracy. So we've printed stuff that's held up. You'll see it on screen. I can't talk about the movies that are coming out, and it looks absolutely real. But it's still a prototype, and they're fragile at points, and they usually stand up for a year or two before the material starts to break down.
Great. Thank you very much, Laurie. Really appreciate it. All right.
What a great morning so far. We're like basically 15 minutes away from lunch, so we're going to just have a few other things that we're going to do. We're going to do another poll, and then we're going to show you a few websites that you should know about, and then we're going to marshal you out. Is everyone met at least 2 people they didn't know before? Oh, wow, that whole corner back there is like, they've met everybody. They're like, we're in. Okay, good. So we're doing each other. Are there any questions overall from this morning that you want to ask? I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on Twitter. It's fantastic. I wanted to let you know, thank you for the few people that were tweeting that it's cold in here. We've upped the heat, so the heat's gone up. So this afternoon you won't be cold. But is there anything that you need to chat about or get off your chest? Is it, no? All right now. Okay, we're going to go to another poll. John, do you want to throw it up? Okay, do you want to reset the poll? Oh, people are already doing it. Wow. So here you can just text the keyword, which is 200C, 200D, 200E, to 37607. Let's see what most people have. I think most people, what? Most people have iPhones, I would say. You know what the crazy thing is? I'm doing this poll because I'm trying to be forward thinking, but quite frankly, I could just ask and everyone just put up their hand. I'd be like, you know what? Probably half of everybody has an iPhone. Those are the people who are like, I don't want to be participating in this, which they're not doing here. So, you know, I think in the end, it's probably just easier the hand thing. What do you think?
Data nerds love charts.
What?
Data nerds love.
Yeah, data nerds love charts.
Can I talk to the person with the flip phone?
Yeah, who's the person with the flip phone? Who has a flip phone? Where? Oh, yeah, so, you know, it's probably one of the guys from Jumper. Devin, did you? It was Dylan. Dylan, you do not have a flip phone. He was texting here. This is what happens when you hire 20-year-olds. Don't do it. It's not going to happen. All right, so is this it? Is everyone logged in? So it's basically iPhone here, right? And how many people are their next device, of the iPhone people, how many people are the next device is going to be Android and not iPhone? Okay. Wow. So how many people are going to stay on the iPhone ecosystem? Good. Excellent. I have nothing bad to say about that. And how many people are moving to the Windows phones? 1? Okay. We know where to invest the stock. All right, I wanted to show you a few sites. Jonathan, do you want to bring them up? I'm showing you some fun sites because we're winding down for lunch. The first one you got to take a look at is hsshake.com. So what you do is that this is really fun. You can tweet it out to your friends. You go to this place. It's called Harlem Shake, and it turns your website into a Harlem Shake website. We're going to do it with Crossmedia TO right now. It's really, really funny. I think it's HS Shake for website. So then what we do is we put in our Crossmedia Toronto, and you know it's just normally static. And then you type this into any website. If you have kids, they're going to love this. And then it then clicks Shake It. Goes to our website. Can we turn on some audio for Jeremiah?
Con los terroristas.
So you see Rawls like, wait, it gets better. Oh yeah, here we go. And then it slowly takes over your whole site. So I thought that was interesting for you. Okay, stop it. Please stop it. How many people, I'm just into polls right now. How many people think the Harlem Shake thing is over? I wish it was? Okay. How many people don't know what the Harlem Shake thing is? Timma, that's okay. So it blew up. How many people really felt that when you were part of the Harlem Shake thing, like I discovered it like probably about, I would say like 2-3 weeks ago. I didn't really know what it was. I was like looking, we have some of the biggest radio stations in America. Our biggest R&B radio station is WBLS, which is an African-American radio station. So we were asking them, and they're like, we have no idea what the hell this Harlem Shake thing is. So we were looking around, and then all of a sudden it just blew up. So what I thought we would do is we've got a bunch of costumes. We're going to bring it in, and I'm going to put on the head, and then we'll do the Harlem Shake here. Look at everyone like, are you kidding me? Did you see everyone look around the table like, are you kidding? He is totally, you know, he's a joker. This could be happening. I don't want to be a part of this. If people are looking, that's great, awesome. Okay, what was the other site that we wanted to show them? There was another one. Which one?
If this, then that.
Yeah, if this, then that. So we're going to show you, how many people have used if this, then that? Yeah, great. So we're going to, if you haven't used it, we'll show you what it is because it's all about learning. So John's going to load in, and we're going to see his passcode, which is going to be awesome. So if this, then that is basically for the layman is coding made easy. Okay. So what happens is that you, for example, I'm going to set up the one. So I have an RSS feed for all of the things that I read and everything I tweet. And I read my RSS in the morning from my Google Reader. So when I go to my Google Reader, I want to be able to star certain articles that I've read and turn them into tweets, right? I don't want to have to constantly going. So I've said to if my Google Reader has a star on it, so I go to Google Reader, right? Google Reader. If the trigger is a starred item, create a trigger. So now I'm going to say, if I star something on my Android phone, then I'm going to tweet it, right? So now he's going to say, because your Twitter is attached to it, bang, and I want to post a tweet. So now the item title or the item URL I can put in there, and then I create the action, right? Bang. So now when I go to my Google Reader, I can describe it or whatever, creating it. So now go to your Google Reader, John, and you'll see that when he stars something, it immediately posts his tweet. So at JumpWire, what we spend a lot of time doing is using technology to make us much more efficient, right? You'll notice that if you follow us on Twitter or you're on our Facebook page, that we post a lot of content, all related to tech, right? All the time, constantly. Each day, I have Mondays. Mondays is my day that I have to post everything on the Facebook and the Twitter on our ecosystem, and then someone else has another day, and then another day, and then another day, and then Jonathan basically takes care of the whole weekends because he's awesome. So that's if this, then that. What was the other one we wanted to show quickly, John? Buffer. Yeah. So I'm going to show you, how many people are using Buffer at the moment? Okay, so a few. So this is a good one to show. So Buffer is pretty awesome. And John, would you feel comfortable showing your email to show Rappaportive? Okay, so let's quickly go to Buffer. What we use Buffer for is that Buffer allows you to post automatically to your social networks at a specific time. So you know how you get up in the morning and you have 30 tweets you want to get out, but not all at 8:16? You want them to go across the day? So what Buffer does is it allows you to just put your tweets into a holding area, and then it sends them out at predetermined times during the day, right? You can use Hootsuite. We don't use Hootsuite, but we use Buffer. We just find it, I mean, you can use Hootsuite to time and schedule. Sometimes we use Facebook to schedule, that sort of stuff. The thing about Buffer is it looks at your overall tweets and your overall Facebook and gives you the best time to tweet.
So does Hootsuite, yeah.
That's great. Do you guys want to come up here and talk about Hootsuite? Do you work for Hootsuite? Do you work for Hootsuite? Okay. This is my time! So you can see here that we've got Buffer, right? And we've got all these different ones. So right now we can post it to TO. You know, can you slow down a little bit, John? Because I wanted to show that you can post it to a bunch of different places. Does everyone just want to come up and run the place? So you can see you can post it to a bunch of different, now we urge you to use the $10 a month one. The reason is that we found there's some glitches and if you just have the free one. But if you use Buffer, it's really good. It'll tweet it out. So you can tweet it out to different platforms. So we could do Crossmedia TO. We could also send it out to LinkedIn or whatever. We don't actually cross between the different platforms, and that's a whole other discussion you can have. We don't link our Facebook to our Twitter. We don't do any of that stuff. Each platform is completely separate. Facebook is about photos. That's why it begins with F. Twitter, I'm here all week, tell your friends. Twitter, same sort of thing, is much more news-based. So there you go, that's Buffer. And then the last one is we're going to show you Rappaportive. If you use Gmail, how many people are here have Gmail or are running Google Apps on the back? Okay, most companies are switching over to this now. You'll see here, if we go and open a thing, down the side, what you do is you put this, it's called a Google app, yeah, there's an extension app. Anyway, so you put it on Chrome. You have to be using Chrome with this, although I think it does work with Safari. You go to the Chrome store. Do you want to quickly show them the Chrome store? Because I think people get confused at this point. So just go, so you go to the Chrome store if you're using Chrome, you click on it, and then you search for your apps. And we use tons of these apps on our Google Chrome browser, because so we have a Bitly, you're going to hear from Brian this afternoon. We have the Bitly shortening app. So then you can type in Rappaportive, there it is, and then you can download it, which we'd already done. What it does is it adds something to your email, right, which we'll go back to now. And you can see down the side. So this email came from Amy Davies, who's the executive producer today. But you know what it says? It says who she is. It's hard to see. What she's doing. Her latest tweets. Whether or not you're connected on Facebook or not. So if you guys are working with me and you email me, you'll notice right back that I'm clicking on LinkedIn right away. Well, I'm not doing it from LinkedIn. I go right here. Go down a little bit. John? Yeah, go up to LinkedIn there. Yeah. So I click on the LinkedIn. Right? And I can send you an invite really quickly. I can do it with Facebook as well too. I can connect my LinkedIn. So we find this very, very efficient way because I can see what people's last tweet are. So when I'm talking with someone on a regular basis, I can see what their last tweet is. I can retweet that tweet. I can have a great interaction. I think that this is probably one of the most productive tools out there right now. If you're going to put one tool on, use this one. Every time we show it to, I showed it to Jen, when Amy came on board with us, we showed it to her, she's like tweeting us, Rappaportive is the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. And we're like, whoa, hold on. 25% her efficiency went up. I have no idea how she came up with that data, but it went up for 25%. So I was asking her, what the heck were you doing beforehand? Right? Whoa. All right, you guys have been great, and because you have been great, what I'm going to, oh yes. What do I have to say about this? Yeah. We have today's issue of The Grid. They were fantastic and wrote up a whole story on us, which you can see. It was incredible. We didn't really ask them to do that. They just did it. And they went in depth. But if you want to grab The Grid, they're out there as well, too. I also do want to tell you that please definitely, have you guys met some of the exhibitors? Or are you finding them amazing? Great. Thank you. We'd really like to thank our media partners, Boger Lists, Backbone, Blog TO, and The Grid, obviously. We really appreciate their support. Please check out the exhibitors. Also, over lunch, you should be sit with people you don't know. Definitely grab some of the jump wire people. I'm going to point them out now. Matthew, would you like to stand up? Matthew's one of our analysts. He's our senior analyst, actually. Anything to do with data, he's a great guy to have lunch with, so grab him. Jennifer's one of our co-founder. Anything to do with stand up. Anything to do with, you can see we're married, right? She's like, no. She's one of our co-founders, but she's anything to do with TV and around that sort of stuff. If you want to talk about that. Devin, in the back over there with the glasses, one of our cross-media specialists and account managers. He will talk to you about anything to do with food. His dad was a chef, so it's all foodie all the time. It's just about eating, so have a good time with him. Where's Caroline? Caroline's our timer over here. She's also one of our analysts. She knows anything about social media. The data that she has in her head is unbelievable. It's like off the charts. Where's Dylan? There's Dylan. He's our YouTube specialist, so if you need to chat with him, he's great. Mark Pershurin at the back there, he works with us. He's our COO, and if you need to talk about anything to do with Twitter, he came to JumpWire not doing tweeting at all, and I think it is there's absolutely no way he's like the best Twitter guy. If you're going to follow one guy, don't even follow me. Follow him. He has like the best tweets all day long. Who am I missing? Where's Jonathan is at the back here. He's one of our cross-media account managers too. Have lunch with him. You know Amy, who's our executive producer, if you want to talk to her about the event. She's a great person to complain to, as opposed to me. Sorry? No, okay. And I just really want to thank you for staying through the morning. It's been fantastic. We got an amazing afternoon coming up with, Bitly and Reddit is going to be here this afternoon. I spent last night I had lunch with Eric. Really incredible stuff going on. So have a great lunch, and we'll start calling you back about 10 minutes too, because we do want to start at 2 o'clock. Have a great afternoon. Lunch.